Okay, well, welcome everyone. For those of you who don't know me, and I guess some of our newest members may not, I'm Carol Nitz. And I have had the pleasure of being a member of Impact 100 since its founding days, and I've been on the board for 5 years. I'm entering my sixth. So it's such a joy and a pleasure to be here with you tonight to kick off 2022. And tonight is the big reveal and has a lot of meaning in terms of the beginning of our process that will play over the next few months until we get to the month of September, where we have our finalists and we all vote to award our grants. But this is the official kickoff. So we're thrilled that you're here. It's with enthusiasm and just a lot of pride on behalf of all of you, our members, our guests, on behalf of all of our past grantees, and really for those nonprofits that we have yet to meet this year. The grant process is just about to kick off, and members of the grant committee will get together soon after the letter of intent is posted to whittle down the very large number to a smaller number, and we'll get to begin to see all of the wonderful nonprofits doing tremendous work in the East Bay and understand even more the need that is in the residents, so many that are in our community. And we're going to hear more about that tonight from our guest speaker. Tonight is also about plans. It is how we'll make our strategies come alive. It's about improvement in tools so we can better serve you. It is about a lot of continuity. And certainly, like most things in life, it is about a little bit of change. And it's certainly exciting in the fact that we will announce our membership for 2022 and talk to you and share with you the grants that we will be able to award. So let's take a look at the agenda and get the party started. In case you didn't recognize it, those were my opening comments. So, the next thing up is our wonderful keynote speaker, Solomon Belette, and I'm going to have some great words to share about him. He has been a friend and a partner of Impact 100 for a number of years, and we're thrilled that he's with us this evening. We have a couple of updates from the board that I'd like to share with you. And then Jane and Denise are going to present information about the grant process, our 2022 plans, some of the impact we've made to date and the process. And then Stacy, on behalf of membership, is going to give us a sense of the 2022 plan, some of the things that we're still doing the same, because last year, if you remember, we had a growth strategy that we put in place, introduced a lot of new components, and we're really carrying forward and expanding upon those themes and using the things that we began to dabble with last year and that we found worked really well, and to do more of it. And then we'll close as we start with thanking you for being here this evening. So if we go to the next slide, Connie. I'd like to introduce to you Solomon Belette. For the past several years, he has volunteered, probably unbeknownst to most of you, to assist our grant finalists. They do an awful lot of work to prepare their final presentations for Meet the Finalists, which is one of our important September meetings. But he's provided invaluable feedback to them as they've practiced and honed their message and taken out some slides and gotten more on point. But we've found that that has been such a terrific add-on and gotten some wonderful feedback from our finalists. So Solomon, we have that to thank you for, if nothing else, and there's so much more. Solomon's expertise in the nonprofit world is 30 years and counting. He's broadened that through roles in leadership positions through a variety of nonprofit organizations. I think we first met him when he was a director of the Sanford Institute at JFK University. And since 2020, he has been in this current role as coordinator of the East Contra Costa Community Alliance. It's a collaborative of nonprofits dedicated to strengthening policies, services, and resources in East Contra Costa County, with the aim of serving as a force for equity and systems change. The steering committee for this organization is really a who's who of nonprofit leaders, and you will recognize if you go to their website a couple of our friends Ann Rickson from Costa and Elisa Friedman from Opportunity Junction, both organizations who have been grant recipients in the past. As I said, we're just so excited to have Solomon here with us tonight. He's going to share his wisdom, his expertise, and some key findings from various studies that have been done about the most critical social service needs in the East Bay, both Alameda and Contra Costa counties. So please join me in welcoming Solomon Belette.
Carol, thank you so much for this very nice introduction. It is quite an honor and a pleasure for me to speak with your group this evening as you kick off your 2022 Big Reveal event. And I also want to thank Connie and Pat in particular, both of them for working with me and to prepare my presentation. So as Carol just indicated, it is true that I have been closely associated with Impact 100 East Bay for a number of years. And it is quite impressive, I think, to witness the tremendous progress that you have made in your grant-making efforts over the past 5 years, investing a half $500,000, I believe, to support local nonprofits. So that's quite an accomplishment. I do hope my presentation tonight will shed some light on the growing needs in the East Bay as you plan for another year of grant making to local East Bay nonprofits. Next slide. So the objective for tonight or my talk is to provide a high-level snapshot on some of the most critical social service needs in Alameda and Contra Costa. I do admit at the outset that a scan does not provide an in-depth assessment or analysis of the issues on the ground. However, I think it helps give a sense of the trends and the challenges facing nonprofits, local government, and philanthropy. Next slide. So the outline of my presentation in the next 15 minutes is to really be very brief as I can be, because 15 minutes goes by fairly quickly. But my presentation is guided by a set of questions to understand the types of needs that are prominent in both counties, and describe to you how local nonprofits have responded and continue to respond, and the implications of these dynamics to your role as grant maker. Next slide. So the key questions guiding my presentation were the following. What are the most critical social service needs? Where have these needs been felt the most? What groups or populations are disproportionately impacted? And how have the East Bay nonprofits been affected? And what are the bright spots with promising potential for greater impact? And last but not least, of course, the implications for Impact 100 East Bay. And like I said, I'll be very brief. Next slide. So as we go through the next few slides, you will be able to see different sets of data that paints a picture on the significant impact of COVID-19. The data in this particular slide is from a survey conducted last year by the Together Towards Health project in Contra Costa County. The project was comprised of 5 nonprofit organizations collaborating to provide outreach and increase COVID vaccination in hard to reach populations, and ECCCCA was instrumental in developing this project. The findings were pretty alarming, but not surprising, as one can find similar findings both at the state level and also at the national level. Almost 40% of survey participants in this particular survey indicated that they had experienced loss of jobs, 40%. Almost 40% had sustained a loss of income, and roughly 30% had faced food insecurity. COVID clearly had a domino effect on our most basic needs: food, jobs, and income. Next slide. So in preparation for this presentation, I was able to analyze data from 211 sources. 211 is the place that people call when they need help or when they need information about where they could access resources. So I looked at the 211 data that was provided to me by Eden INR in Alameda and the Contra Costa Crisis Center. This particular slide, I think, gives us a snapshot of the types of requests that 211 received both in both fiscal year 2020 and fiscal year 2021. The slide reflects the areas of need that registered most frequently during the 211 calls, with community residents often in very difficult and hard-pressed situations. And we see similar types of needs in both Alameda and Contra Costa County, and that's not surprising. However, the volume was definitely much higher in Alameda County compared with Contra Costa County. And interestingly, food insecurity was one of the top 5 in Contra Costa, but not in Alameda County. Financial assistance, housing and rental assistance, and mental health are in the top 3. Next slide. So the impact of COVID-19 was disruptive. It aggravated and accelerated the level of need on those who were already struggling and marginalized because of systemic poverty. And if it wasn't for the safety net programs that you see on the slide that were put in place and or expanded, the misery could have been much worse. Safety net programs like the federal earned income tax credits, CalFresh, and federal child tax credits did make a huge difference by lowering the level of poverty or keeping it from growing further for all ages and children in particular. Unfortunately, the federal child tax credit expired in 2021, as you can see on the slide. And this was one program that had reduced food insufficiency by 26%. And it is quite unlikely that it will be renewed in 2022, given that the Build Back Better legislation is stalled, or some would even say is dead in Congress. So the needs of those who are poor and vulnerable will continue to linger on, and so will the suffering and hardships. I mean, this is the unfortunate scenario. And this is, I think, what we can expect in 2022, unless, of course, new measures are taken, including the continuation of programs like the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, also known as ERAP. So in analyzing, next slide, in analyzing the 211 data, I made some observations which I wanted to share with you tonight. The first observation is that women are experiencing the greatest level of need in both counties, and this may not come as a surprise to us. The large percentage of calls were coming from women reflect that in the data. So we can surmise that women are under a great deal of stress as they provide for their children and to maintain stability for their households. A second observation from the data is that race and ethnicity are prominent in explaining the social determinants of health. African American and Latinos have been disproportionately impacted by COVID-19 compared with their white counterparts. And this is true in both Alameda and Contra Costa County. The third observation is that when we look at the data more closely, it is glaringly clear, at least to me, that specific cities and communities are bearing the brunt of the COVID-19 pandemic. Cities that have higher BIPOC populations, cities and communities that have historically been left out of economic prosperity are at greater risk and much more impacted by COVID than others. So the level of inequity that existed before the pandemic did show its ugly face. We just didn't realize how bad things were until the pandemic hit hard in the second half of 2020, and that trend has continued. Next slide. So the 211 data and some of the other data that I've looked at raised another question for me. And the question was, how has COVID-19 impacted local nonprofit organizations, which I'm sure is of great interest to you as well. So I did conduct a quick survey, primarily of ECCCA organizations, to assess the level of impact their organizations were experiencing, both in terms of clients and the organization's infrastructure. And the questions are on the slide. So in response, 13 organizations responded to the survey. 2 of them are former Impact 100 East Bay grantees, Opportunity Junction, and CASA, and a third organization, White Pony Express, which was one of your finalists. So let me share with you in summary fashion the findings. Next slide. The responses from the 13 organizations were categorized in 6 areas of client needs, and a description of the types of needs is shown on the slide. The categories included financial needs, mental health needs, safety net needs, socio-emotional needs, technology needs, and workforce. This survey validated the areas that were identified as critical needs from the 211 reports and the Together Towards Health survey that I referenced earlier. The types of needs described by these 13 organizations give us a pretty good sense of the issues that their clients have been struggling with due to COVID-19. Their clients' inability to pay rent or mortgage was a direct result of the financial hardships caused by COVID due to loss of jobs, the cost of childcare, etc. Families were often emotionally stressed out in need of mental health support. This comes across over and over again. In terms of what we learned about the infrastructure needs, again, the 13 nonprofit organizations responding identified those areas that created challenges in maintaining a stable and a viable organizational infrastructure. So again, they included financial challenges, funding, supply chain, technology and facilities, training, and workforce. So addressing the new demands presented by COVID-19 required many of these organizations to think outside the box and to be creative in order to respond to the needs of their clients and the community. Alexis, who is here with us tonight, can tell you how fundraising in her organization, Opportunity Junction, has shifted from in-person to virtual and has stayed that way for most of the organizations that responded to the survey. Staff needed to acquire new skills in delivering services and learn new ways to engage their clients with empathy, but also with equity and racial justice in mind. So the pandemic has helped to broaden the perspective of these organizations, and they have used this opportunity to learn and pivot. Next slide. So one of the things I also wanted to share with you as donors interested in the nonprofit landscape is that there are many bright spots despite the bleak future that COVID-19 forces us to paint. These bright spots for me demonstrate the many efforts underway with nonprofits binding together to share resources and work collaboratively to address some of the larger issues facing them and their communities. This list that you see on the slide is by no means exhaustive. There are many, many more organizations that could have been added to both Alameda and Contra Costa County. But I'm sharing this with you in the hope that it will stimulate your interest to dig further and find out how these efforts might align with Impact 100 East Bay's long-term strategic objectives. The beauty of these collaborative networks is that they bring different stakeholders to work together. Those involved in direct services, others in community organizing and advocacy work, and even other organizations that focus on capacity building. And ECCCA is one example of a collaborative network that is focused on building power and resilience in East Contra Costa. and thought I would just highlight that for our purposes today. And I suggest that as part of your due diligence work with potential grantees, that you poke a little deeper to find out how the organizations that come to you are engaged in partnerships and collaborative work. And you might already be doing that. But I think it raises yet another sort of question of what organizations are doing in this post-pandemic environment. Next slide. So let me conclude with what I consider to be implications for Impact 100 East Bay that in many ways result from the experiences that we've had with COVID-19. First, given what the data shows, recovery and resilience support for nonprofits will in my view, help them rebuild and be able to support their clients and communities better and stronger. So I would emphasize recovery and resilience support here. Second, we know that families and especially women and neighborhoods have been disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. The inequities will remain in place unless our approach takes into account disparities based on race and ethnicity, geography, neighborhoods, and even by zip code. And third, as we emerge out of the pandemic, it is important to engage in conversation with grantees, but also other funders to leverage resources at a time when I think resources might be further constrained. And finally, I would urge you to leverage your connections to help promote collaborative capacity building, both in direct services and in advocacy. And so in conclusion, I think my time is almost up. I urge you to continue to learn as a grant maker because I think your approach is fairly unique and unconventional. So, I would just urge you to continue to learn and improve as you move forward. Continue to evaluate and assess your impact. You've now been in this business for 5 years. You've assisted some great organizations. So I think it's important to continue to evaluate what impact your grant making is having in the community. Strengthen ties with your nonprofit partners and funders in strategic ways. I think we all need to come together and work together as philanthropy and the nonprofit ecosystem. Meet nonprofits where they are with their new sets of challenges in delivering services. We've already seen nonprofits pivot and change how they provide and deliver services, and I think it's important that that they get supported as they try new ways and innovative ways of providing services. Be open to addressing and strengthening infrastructure as I think it is essential to long-term stability of organizations. And flexibility and grant support to nonprofits, I know makes a world of difference. So these are the thoughts that I want to leave you with in terms of my conclusion and recommendations. I want to thank you for inviting me to be part of your program this evening. And I do hope that by sharing some of the data that I'm leaving you with ideas and new possibilities. I also want to thank you for your generous investments over the past 5 years and for remaining steady and resilient in your efforts to help East Bay nonprofits be more effective, innovative, and sustainable. Back to you.
Carol?
I am on mute. I just was, you saw me applauding. I was just thanking Solomon. And pointing out as we move on in our presentation, you all will have a chance. Solomon did a wonderful job of highlighting some key areas. We have an event in April that will be coming up. Stacy will tell us a little bit more about it, but we want to seek your guidance on some of the key areas that Solomon pointed out about where we should focus our efforts in that Community Issues Forum. We did that last year, and it was a really exciting addition to the events that we offer each year, and we'll be doing that again. So Solomon, you've given us much to think about. We look forward to a long and healthy partnership with you and learning more from you as we move on. So thank you again for joining us. So I am back with some news from the board. I really just have a couple of topics to share with you. Let's go to the next one. First of all, it is about the board itself. For those of you who were members last year, you may remember we had quite a bit of transition in our board members. That happens periodically year to year. The terms for most board members are, we hope folks can stay for 3 years. Some opt for 2 terms of 3 years, leading to 6. But life comes up and makes us change directions and do different things than we might have thought of. But this year, we really don't have changes in the board members in terms of additions. So the council and the voting that we sought from you last year to confirm new members, we're not doing, but we are sharing with you a few insights of what is remaining the same and what will be shifting just a little bit. One of the things, as I alluded to at the beginning, is change. And change in life is something at my advanced age, I've certainly come to rely on. It's no matter what you do, you cannot escape it. A decision that my husband and I came to last summer, really born of probably our point in life, the pandemic, isolation from our only child who has lived in DC for 12 years, and probably capped off by the fact that she had a baby, my first grandchild, in January. Richard and I are going to be moving to Maryland in April. That is a long way away from the East Bay. I am a California native. I have lived in Oakland for 37 years. So it is a big change for us. But one thing that is not changing is my dedication to the board, to Impact 100 East Bay. I will be joining again for next year and be with you because my heart will still be in the Bay Area and with all of the needs of people here. And perhaps expand into, there is a DC chapter of Impact 100 East Bay, so I may be bi-coastal in my impactness. When we thought about that, and we had a subgroup of the board that came together to really look at options, and we really felt that this was a transition year, and that we, rather than go out and try and find a new president, let's just try to solve within the existing board structure, and made some recommendations. And in November, we talked about it. And Stephanie Shaw, who is one of our co-leads for membership, was very kind in stepping forward and saying, I will job share the role of president with you. And so some of the internal meetings, like leading board structures, the beginning of the year, Stephanie's doing, I'll do some in the middle, et cetera. You probably won't know the difference because, unless you're on the board, that's sort of an internal workings things. The view to you should be seamless. You have 2 caring members who are going to be sharing the role this year. One of the things we will do, it's further down the slide, we've been in the habit of looking at succession planning in the 4th quarter of every year. We're going to accelerate that this year for sure into the June timeframe to give us 6 months to anticipate adjustments next year. No doubt there will be some. Some of our board members are completing their 6th year this year, so we probably are anticipating there will be change. And we want to give ourselves a full 6 months to look at not only a president for 2023, but other changes on the board. Because membership and our growth is so critical to us, as we talked, building on really what membership did this year, the committee structure and volunteers coming together to work together to get the work of impact done is so important to our outcomes. Mainly, historically, most visible in the grants area, the grant committee. But in this last year, certainly under the leadership of Stephanie and Stacy, membership committee members have come together. Melody Silverstein and a handful of folks last year led the 3 events sponsored by membership. I mentioned one of them, our April Community Issues Forum, and just did a terrific job of stepping away and taking a leadership role and bringing those together. These are not board roles we've added, but an extension in asking and partnering with members who raised their hand and said, sure, I'm willing to take on some unique roles. Riffy O'Brien is going to help us as a board and as a community explore our diversity growth, whether it is in our processes like the grant process or some of the other aspects. This is work that was done at the global level in 2021. I happened to be part of a sub-team that was 6 or 7 other chapter presidents. And back in February at the global conference, there was information shared about that. So we're going to use that as our launch point, and Riffy's going to help us lead that conversation. Last year, we started some taste of events, a unique small group opportunity to really get a look at how does a grant process work and how do we do some of the things we do. Found that that was really successful and excited for new members. Sue Schwartzman, one of our stalwart members who's been with us for quite a while and done so many wonderful things with us, is going to lead those activities. And Judith Fuhrer, one of our newer members, stepped in behind Melody and with others will help us bring forward those 3 community events. And Pat and Connie on the events co-chairs will have a little bit of a hand in some of the organizational aspects of that. So technology, whether we like it or not, here I am in the dining room of my daughter's house, and right before I was supposed to speak, I couldn't figure out how to bring Zoom up here. So it's always with us, and it can, daunt the best of us. So we don't use a lot of technology. We have certainly components of email, et cetera, and it's been dispersed across a lot of hands on the board. Stacy has had a key role in the membership management system and is going to step into take on an additional role of coordinating that. A few internal things will shift around. I mentioned succession planning. And then this year, our esteemed founder, Nancy Clark, and our very first board president will become a board member emeritus. She's retiring from the board, not because she doesn't care about impact anymore. We're going to call on Nancy. If she thinks she's getting too far, she won't. And she certainly is always one to have an opinion that we love to hear from. But she has invested in a family sort of a history of working with the Oakland Zoo on their board, and felt this was the year to step away. Let's look at the board. You will recognize all the faces from last year on the next slide. We drew a little orange box around Stephanie and I just to signify the sharing. But to you all, this should remain sort of seamless and transparent and of no issue. I think what it does accelerate, though, is you see all these wonderful women who maybe for their second year now or their 6th year come together and really do a tremendous amount of work to lead the committee structures that we keep wanting to build out and get more people involved. So if you're a new member, please investigate. I know that Stephanie led a volunteer session in January, but there's still information about where you can get involved. And if you haven't in the past, maybe this is a year, or maybe you've been involved for many years and you need to take a year off. But this is your organization and we are run by volunteers. We don't have any paid staff. So thank you to these board members and thank you to all the members who day in, day out make things work for us. Go ahead, Connie. The next topic, the website. One of the things that we did this year, and it was really came to our knowledge at the tail end of 2020, there is a global impact organization. And for those of you who are new, there are more than 60 impact chapters, not just in the United States, but in other countries. And the global organization, from the time that we started in 2016 to now, has really grown into their own. One of the things that they have done is now put together toolkits, resources, a lot of ways for new chapters to stand up. In 2021 alone, 9 new chapters, which was a record number of chapters, became new impact chapters in different parts of the US. One of the offerings that the global organization partnered with an external organization was on branding and a website. When we started 6 years ago, we were very much a do-it-yourself organization, and someone said, gee, I can get some email ideas, and one of the members' son-in-law brought up our website, and we've been running on that for the last 5 years. But with the offer that they were kind, which was a very economical plan for us, the board made the decision to invest in a new website in partnership with Global and this external partner. You can see my partners in crime on the sub-team that did this work over starting in September on the brand and through the fall and into the first part of 2022. So we're going to take a peek at it tonight because it's in its infancy. It has been launched. It is the beginnings of where we want to take it. We now need you to get in and tool around and let us know what you think and what would help you more. Our intentions and why did we do this? As I said, the original website was really just something that came up and became. It has become a bit cumbersome to operate. We didn't really have a support model in place that year to year was sustainable. And we really knew it wasn't going to meet our future needs and desires. We wanted a hub where we could pour in information that would allow you to tell the stories of impact. You could learn more about other organizations, learn more about our past grantees, learn more about your other members, and really didn't have a place that we could seamlessly get all that together easily. We also wanted to seamlessly marry the website with social media and some of the things that we want to do in the future. We also think a strong first impression for our prospective members, donations, donors who might want to give us funds for operating needs. Our community partners, like our nonprofits, come to our website to get information they need for applying for a grant. It will be optimized for every device, so whether it's a phone, a laptop, an iPad, a big screen, and then security and ease of operational support, which may not be as, security certainly is important to all of us, but the operational support will make it much easier for us to bring up new information for you and retire old information. So we're going to take a quick peek at it. And Connie, with just a bit of luck, cross your fingers, everyone. This is always the moment when you do demos, you take a deep breath and you sure hope that it's gonna work. So this is the front page, and it's a beautiful view of the valley with Mount Diablo in the back. The purple or lavender sea star there with Impact 100, that is the standard brand for the global organization. Each chapter then goes through a branding process to pick colors and talk a lot about what it is about your community that makes you tick, your font, etc. And we were handed, after doing this work, a whole treasure trove of tools, whether it was letterhead or the PowerPoint background or postcards or all of the various ways that we could portray our information on the literature that we use. So it was a great jumpstart in that standpoint. You look across the top there, there is information of a general purpose about the organization, membership, grants, events. That's an area that we've had before, but not highlighted in this fashion. There's some new things there. A brand new section is news. We're going to get in the habit of posting. We have one posting up that is an article written about one of our previous grant recipients and how our grant a few years ago really seeded a lot of investment in what they've been able to do with that. And then support and sponsor, whether it's contacting us or donating or becoming a volunteer or supporting and sponsoring someone else, that information is there. Connie's going to very quickly walk us, just kind of scroll down through some of these areas as I point out under about. I just want to highlight a couple of new components. Connie, if you want to do that. I think you're launching it, yeah?
Yeah, you guys can't see it?
I can see what looks like the website. Is that it?
Yeah? Are you-
Okay,
Am I going through the about? No?
yeah, let's do
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Connie, I think we're still seeing your PowerPoint slide. It's not sharing the right window.
Oh, okay, let me just get back in there because we did that and it worked before, but if it isn't, then I'll go back in a different way. Let me escape that and I will share again. Sorry about that. Zoom meeting. We tested this and it worked. Okay, can everybody see the PowerPoint? I mean,
Yes. Yes, yes.
hey, sorry about that. I've been scrolling through it, not knowing you couldn't see it, so I apologize.
Yeah, why don't you just scroll down? And, if you look at the drop down, there are drop downs that you can go to and you don't have to scroll to every page. But just general information about our model, the focus areas. Keep going, you'll see our board members, how the model works. New information, new bios, our LinkedIn for all of our board members. This tool here, and we're going to, post other things that are important, was something we did again in partnership with Global and another philanthropic organization. Is a fantastic way to learn and to share with others about not only impact, what it is, but this is our East Bay version of that. So this is a kind of storytelling and background information we want to share with you so that you can use that to talk up the organization and get other friends and organizations interested in us. Our treasurer asked us to also get in the habit of posting our financial reports. We have had all these years, but we wanted to make sure we were visible with all of that. So you'll see our financial reports for the last 5 years, the original letter. We are a nonprofit in the state of California. And when we file the tax return for this year, it'll be visible there. That may not be something you think about, but in the service of transparency, we wanted to do that. Membership, a lot of the same information. One of the neat things is we've had member spotlights for the last few years, and Connie's just going to scroll, but it was kind of hard to find them. And we want to get better at doing this because we have some fantastic women. Pause right here for just a moment too. A couple of new things, this member meetup, you're going to hear Stacy talk about that. One of the things we've had historically are some very formal type of meetings like tonight, but what if you just want to get to know the other members? What if you want to have some social interaction? We sure are hoping that 2022, with Omicron coming down and vaccinations going up, that we will be able to meet in person and do more things together as a community. Keep going down to member highlights, Connie.
Oh, they're right here. I think. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's okay. But you will find information about our members in terms of little snapshots that we do periodically. And again, as I said, we want to do more of that. There's Stacy right there, and some of the other ones that we've done over time. Grants, largely the same. One of the things I'd like to point out is, making very visible and simplified our impact areas. And so again, here are the focus areas that are simple to tell our story. Eligibility requirements. This is largely information for our nonprofit partners, but if you don't understand the model or you're trying to explain it and you have questions yourself, particularly as a new member or maybe as a prospective member, a great place to go and to understand a lot about the process that follow and that we do. Our impact section there will be information you'll want to look at in terms of our previous grant recipients and their updates as they come in over the year. The event section, Connie, if we go there, one of the neat things that we've added is a yearly calendar. In the past, we've just had a few of the upcoming events, which you'll certainly see there.
Sorry, hit the wrong button.
These are the next ones that are coming up. We also have added our board meetings in case you're interested when those occur. The monthly calendar allows us to put all of these things out. There's a subtle difference in the way the coloring is done, but if you click on any one of them for the whole month, you can see the series of meetings and events that are coming up. I always encourage people, this is maybe a habit I got into when I was still working and trying to protect my vacation and other things. I'd put those dates on my calendar for the whole year. So if I could encourage you to do anything, get the important events that you're going to hear about tonight on your calendar now, in the extent that we have the dates, so that you don't miss them. News is a brand new section, and in that is information that's internal, sometimes our new website, some of the highlights from our newsletters. But if you keep going down there, Connie, we are going to be looking and doing things like videos and beginning to post them here that you can use in meetings or groups to learn more or to share with others. This is that article that I was referring to about Costa. So as we hear things about our grantees in the news, or maybe our finalists or some of the nonprofits that we partner with, we want to make sure that we're sharing those things with you too. And then finally, support and sponsor. That is an area, as I said, in terms of sponsoring from our friends, from donations and contacting us. So again, this is not our website, it is your website and our collective website. So please take a peek. No doubt, like all things that are new in technology, there are a few things we already know we want to add to. We might want to tweak and change as we move forward, but we'd love to hear from you. If there's something missing that you think would be a great addition, let us know. We have the ability now with our partners to make additions. Some of us have been trained. I act like I am one of the ones that's making a lot of changes. I am not, but we have some ready members who are doing that. So that's the new website to represent all of us. Connie, let's go forward now. So this is the moment we referred to at the beginning, the big reveal. And what is the big reveal about? It is how many members do we have in 2022? And then what's going to happen because we have those members. And I'm not going to tell you about that part, but I am going to share the number. And then Jane's going to come on and tell us with that number of members, what we'll be able to do this year. So without further ado, drum roll, please. We have 135 members in 2022. That is 10 more than last year. One of the things that's really, really exciting is the growth in new members. You know, we measure both returning members, and there are a lot of reasons. We saw a lot of people moving in this last year. That's not surprising. But we have a whole host of new members, and we're really excited about that. So I would like to introduce Jane Durkin. Jane and Denise are our dynamic duo leading the grants committee, of which we have many of our members participate, and Jane's going to walk us through our plans for this year. Jane.
Thank you, Carol. Thanks for that nice walkthrough. And thank you again, Solomon. Great information. And I think some things that actually help guide our grant process as we go through our winnowing. And all I can say is that I know for Denise and I, we are just honored to be, again, stewarding the grant process on everyone's behalf. Remember, we're a collective giving organization, right? We've all given our money. We're collective giving. And so we collectively are also responsible for determining who are the folks that we give our grants to. So this year, it's just an absolute thrill. Connie, next slide, I think. We actually, with 135 members, we get to give out a $100,000 impact grant, which is wonderful, a $35,000 community grant, which is equally, it's going to be so impactful to the organizations that get that. And then in addition to that, we've had the generosity of a member is also sponsoring a second community grant of $25,000. So in total, our group is basically, we are stewarding, right? We are collectively going to be giving $160,000 out to the East Bay communities. And I just, what a wonderful honor for all of us to be able to do that. And I think and as we walk into our next slide, over the 5 years that we've been involved, we've had $500,000 that we have invested in our community, right? And the impact that we've had, I think, on people's lives, which is actually kind of being funneled through these amazing nonprofits that we've been able to identify through our grant process. People, put their, boy, if I had $100,000 or if I had $50,000, what would I do with that? And with all the collective brains that we've got with everybody that's on this call, everybody that's a part of membership, we actually are able to narrow down to these wonderful organizations. From the start, the very first grant that we gave, the $55,000 to Missy, and is a program that's still out there today, the Thrive program, helping victims of sex trafficking learning life skills. And then we moved, and Alexis knows this so well, Opportunity Junction and the $103,000 that we've been able to give to help young adults who need some help successfully complete junior college and jobs and get counseling. And I think, one of the really very fortuitous grants we gave was the one to Costa in 2019, $108,000 to start a teletherapy program. And then the next year we end up with COVID, where you were able to actually reach so many foster youth through teletherapy. And this program, which was so impactful, we helped give the seed money for this. It's been so impactful that the CASA has actually been able to, they've received $1 million grant from the state of California to extend this program throughout California, which is, just think about that. That's the idea of collective giving. It's the impact that we're all looking for. And then, last year with the work that Covenant House has done in Oakland to help with homeless youth and having on-site therapists, we've literally saved lives through the therapy that's been able to be provided within Oakland. And we just, we've just released the grant money, but I'm just so thrilled with the work that Aspire Education and Renaissance Entrepreneurship has done. And I know we're going to keep that continued track record of really highly successful, very impactful programs. As we continue to grow our impact, every year we've grown our membership. By growing membership, we get to give out collectively more dollars into the community and have that impact. This 2021 was the first year that we gave out 2 grants, $100,000 to Aspire, $25,000 to Renaissance. And now this year, 2022, I'm just absolutely thrilled. We're going to have the opportunity to give 3 grants. We usually have, 3 finalists. We may end up with 4 finalists this year, which you kind of hope for, but we'll have $100,000, a $35,000 community grant, and a $25,000 community grant. And that's all going to be based on the voting that you as members put into this. After anybody that wants to be a part of the grant committee can help winnow down what does that look like as to what we vote for. But our overall objective, Solomon walked through the level of need that's out there in the East Bay community. If we could get 300 members, our objective in 2026 is to maybe help 3 nonprofit organizations with 3 highly impactful $100,000 grants. Very exciting. And now I'd like to turn it over to my cohort in crime, Denise, and we'll do our little public service announcement for membership on the grants committee. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Denise Coyne. I'm the co-chair of the grants committee. Thanks, Jane. We have a really rigorous grants process. And this year we sent over 200 emails and letters out to nonprofits in Alameda and Contra Costa County. We had over 40 attend our nonprofit information sessions. And if you know any nonprofits that you would like to add to our list, we'd love to get your input. You can send it to grants@impact100eastbay.org. Also, we are looking for members for the grant committee. It takes about 10 hours to read the letters of intent that are submitted, and then we have about a 3-hour meeting on Saturday, March 19th, where we winnow that down to 10 to 15 grant applications. It takes another probably 10 hours to read the grant applications, and then we have another 3-hour meeting on May 7th to winnow that down to the finalists. So anybody who is interested in joining our grant committee is very welcome. It gives you a great opportunity to see all of the fabulous work that is going on in Contra Costa and Alameda County. 2 important dates, not only for March 19th and May 7th for our meetings, but also September 13th to meet the finalists and September 24th for our grant celebration. So thank you. And now I'm going to turn this over to Stacy.
Hello, everyone. I know that we're running a little long, so my dinner's getting cold. I'm going to talk quickly. Hit it. First thing I want to do, though, is I want to thank Jane for doing such a great great job of showing us all the impact we've had so far. It's amazing. We could not have done this without you all. I'd also like to thank Solomon for telling us how much more we need to do. It's all about members and you all helping us bring in new members. So with that, I'd also like to thank Carol for previewing just about everything I needed to say, so I don't have to say it again. What's happening this year? We have our taste of events. We'd love it if you could attend one, and more importantly, if you could invite your friends to attend. Find out what happens at those grant meetings so you can give people a better understanding of what we do. Second, member meetups. I want to meet y'all. Hopefully, we can go outside more. We've already done a walk and a hike. We've done happy hours. We want to continue those over the next quarter or the next year, one of each per quarter. Next slide. And then we talked a little bit about our big 3 events. The most important one to bring up right now is the Community Issues Forum. In April, we're going to take a deep dive into one of the issues that Solomon brought up, my bad. So what we want to do right now is the most important thing. We would like to get your feedback on what you want to learn about. So we're going to do a quick poll on some of the topics to decide what you'd most like to learn about in April. So if my wonderful poll worker could open that up for me.
Stephanie, are you there?
Yep. I'm launching it now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what we need you to do is we're going to have on April 21st, we're going to have the Committee Issues Forum where we will have several people come and tell us, do a deep dive into one of these issues. Which one of these would be the most interesting to learn more about for you? Homelessness, food insecurity, financial assistance, or post-pandemic recovery and resilience? If you can, everyone answer their vote, push your vote in.
You guys are quick. We're up to about 70% have voted. Just a few more seconds. One or two more. All right, I think that will do it. I'll end the poll and then share the results.
Okay, so seems like everyone's got the majority is thinking the way we all are. Let's get out of this pandemic. How are we going to recover, and how are the people in our community going to develop the resilience? And I think that's probably going to cover all 3 of the topics, or include the 3 other topics. So I don't think anyone will be feeling left out in April. We hope you will all join us and bring some friends. And moving on to my last slide. It's standing between us and dinner. Take a quick look. These are the events that we're going to have all year. This is posted on the website. In addition, you will be receiving emails inviting you, letting you know more about what's happening within the community, what's happening within our organizations. So keep an eye out. Come to our events, meet each other. You're all such wonderful people. I can't thank you enough for everything you've done, and please, please, please continue to do so. And Carol, I'm gonna kick it back to you so we can send people on their way.
So this is the last slide, and for those of you who've been with us the last couple of years, we started putting together this heart. And if you look in all those little colors that look like little blurbs of color, those are actually the names of all of the organizations over the last 5 years and that have applied for a grant with us. The grantees are highlighted here in red at the top. But that to me really symbolizes many things. The heart that we all put into our work, this collective giving and the sense of volunteering to assist those who need assistance, to partner with the terrific nonprofits in our organization. And it also represents a lot of unmet needs that we have yet to be able to respond to. It is without question, when we get to September and we make our grant awards, it is always a sort of a happy, sad day, because we wish, as Jane pointed out, that we had $300,000 to give everyone $100,000 who applied. In fact, the largest organization, for those of you that don't know, is in a position of giving 10 100,000 grants each year. And there are a lot that have 500, 600, 700 members, 200 and 300. So our aspirations are not crazy and they are not impossible. It just takes time, and we're hoping that as we can get back together as a community and meet each other and find even more creative ways to reach out to organizations, to places that communities gather, for women's groups, that we can entice others to join the collective journey with us. But on behalf of all of that need, and on behalf of all of those great nonprofits, and on behalf of all of you, thank you for joining us tonight. It is always a joy to see your beautiful faces. And let's roll up our sleeves and get busy on another fantastic year. Solomon, once again, thank you so much for joining us. It was a delight to have you. Thanks a lot. And with that, I bid you adieu.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.